Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of those RPGs from the 2000s that has a solid nostalgia factor and garners pretty positive responses from most people that have played the game. I finally managed to beat Kingdom Hearts 2 on my Twitch channel last week, and feel like it was a good excuse to rank all the worlds. Funny enough, I never beat the game, even though I played through Kingdom Hearts 1 and 3 in their entirety. When I was younger, I could never beat the Roxas fight in the world that never was, and I didn't feel like lowering the difficulty, so I just gave up. This was also my first critical mode run, so here we are, 15 years later, ranking 15 worlds in Kingdom Hearts 2. Before we get started, I'd like to say this is my own personal opinion, so my number 15 may be your number 1. But if you've ever played the game to completion, I'm curious to see what your list looks like, so drop it in the comment section. Second, let's set a 10 like goal for the video and subscribe to the channel for more content. We're getting close to 200 subscribers and I'm trying to finish this year with around 1,000, so let's get started with the list. At 15, we have Atlantica. I'm fairly positive if you gathered every person that has respectively played this game to completion, we 100% would come to a conclusion that this is the worst world in the game. The musical number minigames were unnecessary, the minigames did nothing to enhance the story, the world in itself was just a retelling of the movie, so honestly it felt like a downgrade from Atlantica and Kingdom Hearts 1, which did have its own original story and world traversal. The world in short requires you to level up through the game just to come back and do these musical number minigames again. The music was also mid and the quick time buttons felt offbeat. It was just an all around bad experience. Worst world by far. Disney Castle. I'm not sure if I should even classify this, but this was one of those worlds where you fight a few NPC Heartless and leave. It was basically a hub world for the Timeless River world. There were very minor plot points touched here, and the section where you have to protect Minnie Mouse by guiding her to the door just felt like a waste of time. In general, the world was unnecessary. At 13, I have Port Royal. This world has the most annoying fucking enemies. Enemies you could only deal damage to when under moonlight, and putting them in boss fights make the world and battles feel tedious. The boss fights were fun, but tedious also. Barbosa's fight, having to undim lights just for him to have the moonlight effect and an annoying moveset. Annoying. I chose defense at the beginning of the game, so having a low MP stat didn't help that second treasure boss be any more fun. Overall, the scenery was drab. The annoying boss fights, extensive dialogue, it did not help me enjoy this world very much. At 12, I have 100 Acre Wood. It's the minigame world. If I said I didn't like Winnie the Pooh, I'd be a hater, but it's reasonable out of all the worlds in the game. The world doesn't progress the plot and essentially just tries to emphasize the message that there's power in connected hearts. Hey, you get a cool keyblade out of it, so I'm satisfied with it being here on the list. At 11, I have Agrabah. This world was true to the movie, but the city could have been designed better. The flying carpet sections were fun and the Heartless were unique. Unlike Atlantica, Agrabah actually progresses the plot from the first game. Did not appreciate the fact that the Cave of Wonders felt less developed in the first game, and the boss fight with the Fire and Ice Heartless was not fun. Actually, it was probably one of the easiest in my opinion. The Jafar fight I felt was more unique, so I gave Agrabah more points for that. At 10, I have Twilight Town, one of the tutorial worlds basically. Learning the game as Roxas was interesting, to say the least. The world has good level design, and though it's a world basically designed for plot progression and learning mechanics, there are sections where you can farm Heartless and Nobodies. The most interesting part about this world, and entertaining part about this world, was playing as Roxas in general, so his storyline alone puts Twilight Town here for me. At 9, I have the Space Paranoids. In general, I felt like KH2 has below average AI for team assistance, and Tron was the worst third-party character I played with. I do agree that the light cycle missions were cool, and that a boss with that concept would have been nice. The cosmetics were close to the best also, but the bosses here were so underwhelming that I had to put it way lower on my list. At 8, I have Land of Dragons. In terms of third-party AI, right next to Tron is Mulan. Though she's not the best third party from my personal experience, she does have a cool reaction command in Dragon Blaze. The world itself had a solid atmosphere. The Heartless here were pretty diverse, so it wasn't exactly boring. The Shan Yu boss fight was boring, and the second boss fight was a lot more entertaining. At 7, I have Olympus Colliseum. Olympus did really well considering this is our second visit in the series. We teamed up with Arn during our first visit to the world, and he probably has the second coolest reaction command with Sora in the game. One thing I did not like was how much of a bitch Hercules was during the whole story. In terms of plot, it made sense, but from a gamer's perspective, his demeanor just came across mad annoying. Just because it was consistently being thrown out there. Oh, Sora, I'm not good enough to be a hero. I can't protect Meg. Hades is better than me. And it just felt like that was his entire dialogue through the entire world, through 2 visits. Hades was an okay boss, and I also enjoyed the Underworld tournament, so a middle of the pack placement is okay with me here. At 6, I have Hollow Bastion. I genuinely like this world. This is the world with all the Final Fantasy characters except Arn. Also the hub world for 100 Acre Wood. My favorite part from this world was easily teaming up with all the Final Fantasy characters in a series of us versus Heartless battles, then following up with that by fighting 1000 Heartless. If the world had perhaps a fight similar to the last one, it would be a lot higher on my list. At 5, I have Beast's Castle. Finally in top 5 territory, but for a world that takes place in one building, it works. Beast was probably the best third-party member battle-wise, next to Jack Skellington in my opinion. And I will say there was an annoying section where you have to guide Miss Potts to the end of a dungeon, and she kept glitching to the point where I had to restart my game. That aside, the Zaldin fight was the second hardest I played next to Roxas. He beat my ass 42 times, and yes, I counted. At 4, I have Halloween Town. Halloween Town has one of my favorite aesthetics in the game. The cosmetics for this world were some of the best, and that's the only world that gives you 2 cosmetics between Halloween Town and Christmas Town. The Keyblade is cool, the Oogie Boogie rematch was entertaining, you get story progression with Maleficent plotting behind the scenes, and the unnecessarily difficult experiment boss fight. It was overall a fun world. At number 3, I have the Pridelands. The only gripe I had about this world is that it felt dry in some parts. It worked itself out though, because we were a lion and we were able to traverse as a Keyblade wielding beast. We were able to get our run back with Scar, turn the hyenas into shish kebabs, and get revenge for our dog Mufasa. We taught our boy Simba how to be a king in the process too. The second boss fight was also very fun, and the Keyblade looked nice. Well deserved 3. At number 2, I have Timeless River. Even though this world was one of the easiest, it had the most charm. The whole 50s aesthetic, character design, audio design, everything to me was perfect. Most of the fights prior to Pete felt like minigames, and even though I'm not a fan of the win before time runs out battles, it was fun. Having old school Pete fight normal Pete was a cool concept, and a lot of the world references were nods to the older era in Disney. And number 1, I have The World That Never Was. Easily my favorite of the worlds. In short, it was anime as fuck. I started off with the Roxas fight, and this was the hardest boss fight to me personally in the game next to the experiment in Halloween Town. Going back to grind levels, then still losing was disappointing, but after those 30 losses, that one win felt like how the characters in Blue Lock celebrate after a goal. Finding Kairi and Riku after searching for them all game, fighting Zigbar, then having the most JRPG final sequence in a 3-stage final boss fight against Xehanort was extremely satisfying. So that was my list. Hopefully you stayed until the end and you enjoyed the video. Let me know your favorite worlds from the series in the comments, and sub to the channel for more content. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Be easy.